Hello, 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 my friends out in Cyberland. I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and I hope you're in for a great conversation. Get a cup of coffee, a glass of tea, some water, because for the next 15, 20 minutes, you are in it to hear the greatest story ever. Really, greatest story ever. I am Trish Carr from Women's Prosperity Network, and you are here with Be Real, Get Real. And this is a place where we actually get to know the person behind the business. Because you know what? We do business with people, not with businesses. Yes, I go to the same grocery store that's owned by the multi-billion-dollar corporation, but the people in the grocery store who bag my groceries, like Angela or Susie, who is at my cashier, or Bob, who helps me out to the car, those are the people behind the business. And they are the reason I go back to that store. And it's the same thing in business all over. We don't need to necessarily buy from big box stores. We have so many amazing people in our community who do really wonderful things in their businesses and provide amazing services. And this is one of them. I am so thrilled to introduce you to Alexandra Van Horn. I have known Alexandra for probably 14 or 15 years now. And I think about it and I'm like, wow, where did the time go? But let me tell you about her. She has been a light in my life for those 15 years. She is the acclaimed author of How to Get and Stay Happy. Is that not what we all want? Of course we do. She inspires people to own their innate abilities to create a life they love. You know, she's an ordained minister, a life and health coach, and a former massage therapist. So she knows the body, the mind, the heart. And she's inspired and helped others reach for and achieve their dreams for almost 95, oh 05. Alexandra, you don't want me to say it's almost 30 almost 30 years. Let me bring on the fantastic Alexandra Horn. I hear the applause in cyber world. Everybody's listening. Oh, because today's conversation is a really great one. It's the opposite of happy. It's grief and going through it. And how do I get past it? You know, I'll tell you that my best friend died a year and 4 months ago, and I am still grieving, Alexandra. So I'm so looking forward to this conversation. So thank you for being here. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that intro. I was like, who is that person? No.
That's you.
I know. Yeah, grief, it's like, like the first big one obviously was losing my husband in 91. But like more and more I become aware how we, as a culture, as human beings, we have to normalize it. Is it's like it's everywhere. Like, yeah, we all lose loved ones, so that's the big one. That's the big one. But
Yeah.
just grieving different aspects of life, moving away from a community, moving away from friends, moving away from our youth, and noticing that even though we're doing all the things to feel young and healthy, it's not the same as it was, so there's lots of things along the way that we can grieve.
A lot of things. And I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's the truth. We go through Kubler-Ross's, she's the one who came up with the stages of grief. We go through that at endings, whatever they are. I was just talking to my sisters the other day, and we were talking about how when I left South Florida years ago to move to Atlanta, and everybody stood at the front door while we pulled away, going like this, coming down their eyes. And it's true. There was a mourning period there as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Is there such a thing as relative grief? Oh, I moved, or oh, my spouse died. Right.
Yeah. I think the impact on our lives, definitely. I mean, when you have your specific loved ones around you and they're there, to go through the move with. Well, the move might be, uncomfortable and painful and even sad, or, it's always a mixed blessing, I think. But you have your close knit loved ones around you. That's great. But when that goes away, so yeah, I think there definitely is like, well, that hurt a lot more than, moving
Yeah.
your child at home, say.
Yeah. But, losing your husband you were early young. How long were you married when he died?
We were married 14 years.
Okay. And then you had 3 kids. So how old were your boys then?
They were 4, 6, and 8.
Ah!
Yeah. So
Ah!
I had them because they forced me to keep, to not wallow. I could wallow, but I had to schedule my wallowing. I had to wallow when they were either at school or asleep or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure grateful I had them for one thing. And it helped me to kind of just move through it, like I said, in a structured way, kind of
Mm-hmm.
when I could feel sad,
Yeah.
I had to make sure there was food and laundry done and dropping off at school and things like that. So
And
yeah.
I think that really helps. When you think about having to process the grief, I could, losing someone like my spouse, I mean, I'd be in grief every moment. So you're right. It's good to have the kids because it keeps you not
Right,
thinking about your loss. But
right.
so how did you go from mother of 3 boys, single, just lost my husband? Was it sudden that he passed away?
I guess you'd call it. No, it wasn't sudden like a heart attack or something like that. It was cancer. He was
Okay.
diagnosed in August of 91. They operated, it was colon and liver cancer. They operated, did a couple rounds of chemo, and he passed away in December.
Yeah. So here's the truth. I don't care how long you have to prepare. You're never prepared when it happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you process? You didn't have a lot of me time.
Right. Yeah. The biggest memory I have of processing was after the kids were in bed, I would fill the bathtub up with as hot as I like hot baths, hot as I could stand it. I'd, soak myself in there. The water would get cold. I'd drain some out. I'd add more. I'd be in there for like 2 hours just adding more hot water,
Oh, wow.
But it'd be like, that was my healing process for sure.
Yeah, I'm a car crier.
Ah,
I cry in the car.
no witnesses, right? Nobody can see
No,
you,
wait.
hear you. I've done my screaming in the car.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too. So how long did it take you to like come back to life?
Um, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, to come back to life, because I I heard something the other day about grief. It's like a rock in your pocket. It's like when you first are when it first happens, the event first, it's like you just have this rock and you're carrying it in your pocket. And you always have it, except you get stronger along the way. Eventually you forget it's there occasionally. So it's kind of like that, like coming back to life is like what's the word I'm looking for? A progression. That's it. A progression.
Right.
So, initially it's like, oh, this rock is heavy as anything. I can't deal with it. It's like, so you just do the minimum. Like I used to say, okay, what are we eating today? Is there enough food in the fridge for today? Yeah. Okay. Do we have clean enough clothes? Doesn't have to be brand spanking clean, but clean enough clothes for today. And are the important bills paid for those? The mortgage paid, whatever, so that used to be like my minimum thing. And then anything else that got done or handled, that was like what I would call gravy, And so that was like the first step. And then little by little, like one thing that happened is I had pastels, and I would just like one of my things, but I was just kind of scribble with pastels on paper. That was like sort of my, without really calling it anything, my unofficial art therapy, And then one day a friend saw that, and she had stopped over and she said, you should take watercolor lessons. And I had never thought of that. I never thought of myself as any kind of artistic really in any way. And then the next thing you know, a friend of mine mentioned she was taking watercolor lessons at somebody's house. So the next thing you know, I started doing that. So that was like the first memory I have of actually doing something for me that was fun. And it was a bunch of women, went to somebody's house. We'd sit down. The teacher was wonderful. She'd make tea afterwards and baked goods. I mean, it was like so nurturing. It's just
Yes.
needed, and then sometimes we'd take a trip into the city to go to a gallery or something, So it was like, that was like the first memory I have of just like coming home to me, so to speak, I guess, just
Mhm.
embracing the creative side. So when I was thinking about our conversation today and preparing for it, I thought about what encouraged that. What got me to that point was playing. I sat down, I was playing with pastels. Whatever somebody likes to do for playing is a great place to start. Coming home to ourselves, self-care, like the bath, the hot bath, whatever that is for somebody else, hot baths. And then how do you play when you're not really trying to accomplish anything, and you have a few down moments or quiet moments, I'll say, and you can eat, whether it's doodling or throwing together a recipe, whatever it is. And that got me to the next step, is just being, sitting still enough to allow play to come through in whatever form.
That's great.
Yeah.
For me, it's playing in the garden. If I
Yeah.
get out and play with my plants and get my hands in the dirt, I can lose
Nice.
myself in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, looking for some way to just get into something you really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then mindfulness was also something I know that you
Mhm.
developed through this. Talk a little bit about that and where you are with that today. Is you have
Yeah.
a gratitude journal. That's part of your practice. It's part of what you do with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like, one of the things I noticed, like through the painting, when I would get involved in something that's creative, like I use the term I would disappear, because I was
Mm,
so in the process, in flow, that, all the flow was what took over, So that was, and so the same thing with your gardening. You just get into it, right? Especially with gardening, it's so grounding. Yeah. Yeah. Gratitude. Definitely. That has been a life changer. Just count, people have heard the story, counting one's blessings. And so I created, this past year, in fact, I mean, I've done it, but now I've created a gratitude journal. Can you see that?
yep,
Yeah.
I can see it good.
Yeah. That just a daily practice with my dog finally got out of her crate. She's just a second. I apologize for the interruption.
That's all right. Hello, puppy.
She's on a new medication and she has not gotten out of her crate yet. The door's been open for hours. So finally she's gotten out.
I guess that medication makes her tired. She sleeps in.
Yeah, vet recommended it. Yeah. So I don't know if she's going to stay on it, because it might be too much for her. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you have the puppy because the other thing, I mean, it's so funny. You go through so many transitions in life, right? We lose people, we go through grief, life changes, your business changed, you became a massage therapist. Did
Mhm.
you start that when you still had the young boys?
No, no. I started that after we moved to Florida. I lived in Jersey, all of the initial grief, and they were young. That was up in New Jersey. And I realized after my husband died, I had thought about it, but the opportunity hadn't shown up yet. And then after I moved to Florida, the timing was right, and I was able to do it, because I had thought about, you know, when my kids grow up, when they're little, you get that oxytocin, you get to hug them and nurture them and everything. When they grow up and they're out, it's like I knew I wasn't going to have, or I didn't think I would, couldn't count on having healthy touch in my life. So I thought, that would be a good thing to do. So that's when I went into massage, and I did that for about 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. And so what was that leap like? Like, because then you were self-employed.
Right, right. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I mean, luckily I did have some life insurance, and I had some Social Security widow benefits. Um, but yeah, that was, and I did not want to have my own shop because I didn't want to be concerned about the overhead and then, having to be there every day. Because then I'm like, well, then it's still a job that I have to go to every day. I wanted to have more freedom in my day. So I would just go to people's homes and through referral. I did free chair massage at the local gym that I was at and got clients through that, and then referrals, which was great. And then someone had recommended, she said, well, on the days you don't have massage, you could do substitute teaching. And I thought, oh, yeah. So, that's one of the things that I know I've needed to do. And anyone who's listening, who's trying to figure life out, it's like you can put together piecemeal, like what works now, and then what can I add to that to fill in the blank spaces or to fill in the gaps. So I did some substitute teaching, and then that even evolved into some full-time teaching work as covering for people on maternity leave, things like that. So really had a varied background.
Well, but what's really cool, Alexandra, is that you don't have to know the whole path. You just take some steps. You took some steps to be a massage therapist, right? And then everything else just shows up.
Right, exactly. You just do the next thing that makes sense to you. The next, you feel inspired.
Right. And that's true for everybody. It's like a lot of times we think, well, we have to know where we're going. No, we don't.
Right.
We know that we are skilled in working with people through their grief, for example.
Right.
So
right.
That's where we put our focus, and the next thing shows up when it shows up. So That's great advice.
Yeah.
Really good advice. And then the other thing that showed up, so here you are, you deal with the grief of losing your husband, then dealing with your life of 3 young boys and bringing them up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave you.
I never knew that the empty nest was like a real thing,
It's a real thing.
Now I wish I could talk to my mother. She's passed on several years ago, but it's like, I want to say, I never knew what it was like for you, like when we just left, and I used to visit with her. My guys are like, they're living life. They've got families, they're traveling, all the business stuff that goes with their lives. So it's like, wow, it's really feels empty, So I was by myself in 2022. I had COVID, and then it really being by myself really hit home. And that's when I got my dog. I said, okay, I need more than me in this house, So I got my dog.
Yeah. I remember my sister going through it. So I don't have any kids, so I never dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
My sister going through it, she was doing fine, and they're all moving out. And then one day when they were the last one left, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm here by myself." And she had a big 2-story house, and yeah, all of a sudden it hit her that, oh, they're not coming back. Oh, but they did.
They did.
Comes back. Did yours come back for a while, or you were lucky they didn't?
No, it's been a one-way street.
Yeah, hers came back for a year here and a year there. That's what's happening with a lot of kids. But I remember her feeling, wow, it's really empty here.
Yeah.
It's really empty here. So how do you find those passions and those interests that bring you joy? I mean, we talked about starting with fun, starting with fun.
Right.
And then for you, that fun led to connection, right? And wasn't that really the level you really wanted to get to, was the next level of connection?
Yeah, absolutely. And like in my training as a life coach now, one of the crucial things that we're taught to ask, and that I ask my clients, is, what would you love? And then it doesn't have to be, well, I want to tour the world, or I want to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't have to be these grand peak moments. It could be, well, right now I just like to put my toes in the grass, or go sit in Starbucks and have a matcha or a coffee or whatever, So I do like the little things, whatever the little is right now that makes me feel loved and nurtured. Because I know whenever I've gone into a pity party, it's usually because I'm not nurturing me and hoping it comes from some other source. It's like, okay, so I tell my clients, okay, well, what would you love? On a level that you can afford, that fits with your work schedule. It could be something, whether it's going for breakfast, going out for a dinner, whether you're by yourself or with friends. can do any of those things. You know, it's all about answering that question, what would you love?
Mm. And now you've turned all of your life experience, your education, into working with other people so that they can have the best life. What type of people are you working with? Like, how would I know that it's time for me to reach out?
Right. Well, anyone who's like particularly dealing with grief or empty nest, and it could, I like to say is somebody who's at this plateau where they're feeling this like, what's next? Like this emptiness could be, you know, emptiness could be having, it's, I call it suddenly single, could be either divorce or widow, whatever. It doesn't matter how, although, I mean, it matters to the person, but obviously they're at this place where they didn't, I say, I can be the wind at your back and the muse that pulls you forward to help you get to the next step of what it is for you. And sometimes it's just, and it usually just takes the form of just gentle conversations like I just shared about, well, what would you love? You know, I got that you're working full time and this and that, but, you know, can you stop in at Starbucks and sit for a half hour before work? Or, you know, little things like that, that just give people the awareness like, oh, I matter. I do matter, and I can matter to me. I don't have to, you know, be clamor for somebody else loving on me. And then what the interesting thing is, like when we do that, we're happier, and maybe Prince Charming or whomever will show up and we'll feel fulfilled, or maybe not, but we're still feeling fulfilled. And that's the trick, is just nurture ourselves, self-care.
Yes, 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 yes. So I know that you share with people a free gift, and I just put it up on the screen. Can you share with us what that is and how you can get it at the website?
Yeah, when you go to my website, which is AVH, which are my initials, Alexandra Van Horn, avhcoaching.com. When you go there, within a few seconds, there'll be a pop-up that says 5 tips to create a life you love, free gift. You just put your email address in there, and I think it asks for your first name or something, and it'll come to your inbox, and you'll get 5 tips to create a life you love.
All right. I'll make sure I put that in the comments section of our social media for sure, on YouTube. And everybody wants a life they love. So go ahead and get that, because even if you put one tip into place, isn't that going to be wonderful?
Right. Exactly. Gets you moving in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Alexandra, before we go, if I were going through some kind of a closure or loss or shift in my life, one of the things you said was, you know, think about what you love and do it. So how do I, really what I want to know is, what's the last thing that you want to leave with people who might be going through some kind of shift?
Right. The main thing is taking the time and have the presence of mind for self-care. If it means avoiding the people, the well-meaning people in your life that are driving you nuts, you know, you walk down a different street, drive down, you know, walk a different way so you don't have to cross paths. You have to really, what I call it, curating your inner circle, your friend group. If there's someone that's dragging you down, find a way to create space in your life that you don't have to be in that energy. Because it's really, you know, because I think so many of us are taught not to, you know, to be nice to everybody and let everybody, you know, be all inclusive. And it's, yeah, it's okay to be inclusive, but you can be inclusive from afar. It's like, yeah, I love you and I appreciate you from a distance. You know? So yeah, taking the time to really get in touch with what steals your energy and what gives you energy.
Yeah. And knowing that this crossroads is the opportunity for you to exactly curate your life.
Yes.
Like, right? I'm in a place where I can start fresh and create it the way I want it to.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's a nice and you know, when you seen in the right perspective, it's like, wow, I can really, you know, this is my life now, and I've got this space, this freedom, and you can still grieve and still say embrace the freedom at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexandra, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you
And I
so much.
know that all of you have appreciated the conversation. No matter where you are, no matter what's happening in your life, we all have endings. And that's what we're talking about here is how do you manage the ending and how do you make sure that you keep moving on because life doesn't end, right?
That's right.
So thank you for being with us today, Alexandra Van Horn. I appreciate you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for being with us today. If you're not yet a member of this amazing global community of extraordinary women who come together to grow their businesses and their lives so that the end result is they create the world they want to live in with their products and services, you
Right.
can become a member for free right at womensprosperityNetwork.com.
Yes.
Alexandra, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate this time together. I really
Yes.
appreciate this. Thank you.
Me too, me too. Thank you all for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you again with another episode of Be Real, Get Real. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Ta-ta.
Bye.